Welcome back to the Turnaround Team. Xavier Floris from xfrading is our guest. Xavier, thank you for joining us.
Hi, good afternoon, Greg. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, well, I'm just very curious. I found you on one of your posts on LinkedIn about mechanical versus refractory. So before we get into that, why don't you go ahead and tell us what your company does and maybe take us back to the origins of your company.
All right. So I started in Refractory like more than 25 years ago. Just by chance, I was a youngster looking for a job, and I landed a job at a Refractory company, not thinking that I would last, but it is a tough industry, as we all know. However, 25 years later, I'm still doing it. There's not much else I know besides refractories. And then a couple of years ago, after having worked for installations companies and for petrochemical companies, I started freelancing, so to speak. That was in 2019. The timing was a bit odd because just at that time we were hit with COVID and travel restrictions and so on. So it was a tough time. But nevertheless, as we grew into the inspection business, we've established a company. We don't just do third-party refractory inspections, but also do consulting work. You know, if you have a particular problem in a plant, a refractory-related problem, of course, you can contact us and we can see if we can assist. But I don't say we know everything, absolutely not. But I'm sure within our circle of associates and colleagues and friends, we will know someone that will be able to assist in a particular matter. We mostly work in Asia, the Middle East, and Africa, South Africa, of course. But we open and willing and eager to go anywhere. You know, we've got the resources to travel. It's just a matter of arranging logistics, and we can be on the plant if we need to be there.
The sponsor of this episode is Core Refractory Systems. If you need anchors, castables, ceramic fibers, refractory brick, or precast shapes, or anything in between that's all made in the USA, call Blake or Daniel Roddy at 713-675-4800, or you can visit them at corerefractorysystems.com. Okay, so y'all not just in the HPI, you're also in the steel, foundries, and y'all do some brickwork?
Yeah, so in South Africa, we don't have a lot of petrochemical plants per se. We do have the refractory industry in South Africa has actually shrunk quite a bit over the last couple of years. But we do still have a good industry. And because we have to be diverse, you know, you've got to go where the requirement is, where the work is. And that is why a lot of the guys don't just, well, there are a couple of guys that purely concentrate, for example, on the steelmaking side of refractories or just petrochemical. But for me, for example, I'm a all-rounder. You know, I've worked in cement plants, I've worked in petrochemical plants, and I'm not just saying once, on numerous occasions, doing the similar work for various companies and different shutdowns or projects. You know, so like even building small crucible furnaces, because that's where I started, you know, building small crucible furnaces until I've been built or given the confidence to do bigger stuff. But yeah, no, we do all sorts of stuff. All sorts of industries.
Well, that's good. So going back to your LinkedIn post, what caught me was it was about mechanical inspectors trying to inspect refractory work.
Yeah.
And that's a huge problem that we have here in the States too.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing thing. And I think it goes both ways. I think, you know, sometimes they try to get some refractory guys to come look at some mechanical work, but for me, it's kind of like, you know, you just stay in your lane. You know what I mean? That's metal, it's a valve, or it's a metal plate. You know, we're dealing with ceramics and rocks over here. Like, you're way out of your area for that. You know, like, you can let us do that, because if you don't know what you're looking at. You know, that's a huge problem. It's a huge safety risk, because you're putting the vessel at risk and everybody around there at risk. And so you just don't really want to do that. But again, a lot of times it's not just mechanical inspectors just taking it upon themselves to go into a vessel and inspect refractory. It's these refineries and chemical plants that think, well, just because they're there, they're already paying for them. Why bring in refractory specialists or inspectors to this job. We already have an inspector here. So, I was just kind of curious to get a few more thoughts from you on this issue.
Well, it's just not the inspection side of things. It's the overall running of the refractory project itself. That stems from there. A lot of the times we'll see a guy or civil engineer, which is not the same as refractories. Let's emphasize that. A civil engineer running a refractory project. And like you're saying, rightfully so, the inspection side of it. But it stems from, and I know of a lot of competent refractory project leaders and managers out there that can run a refractory project, but for some reason, it's always decided that another discipline must run or oversee the refractory side of things, and in a lot of these instances, the guy doing it has got minimal refractory experience. We've been involved in a project in the Middle East maybe a year or two ago. We were only two guys that actually knew anything about refractories, and 80% of the work was refractory. And that brings us to the other side of things, that it's also like refractory is always put on the afterburner. We'll get to it. And I've seen that many times. When I talk to you about this, that's not a South African thing, like we rightfully said. It's an international thing. We've seen it in the Middle East, we've seen it in Asia, we've seen it in Africa, we've seen it in South Africa, that the project is being delayed because of other delays, disciplines, mechanical instrumentation, whatever. And they expect the refractory crew to cut down on their time so that they can get back into schedule. And it doesn't quite work like that. You and we both know that once a thing is cost, we can't just blow over it and it will sit. It takes a certain amount of time to sit before we can strip the formers and so on. So that is something that is actually quite disturbing to me. That refractories is a new industry. It comes from ancient years, and yet we still put it as a what's the word I'm looking for? Like something that's not important.
Yeah, they're always put it on the back burner, like it's not a big deal. We'll get through it eventually, and then it's come on, we got to get this done right now. And it's like, well, you wasted a week, trying to look at this valve, or having your mechanical inspectors come in here and try to step on our toes and just get in our way. It's like you got to get out of the way and let us do our job.
At the end, like the risk is so high to take shortcuts like that, because factory, it actually preserves lives and equipment. If you get a burn through, especially like in the steel plant, I've seen already where there was a run out and the whole platform was full of art and nickel. That's not, so it's just not the equipment. That's, you're putting people's lives at risk by taking these shortcuts.
Yeah, and they're also putting safety at risk. They're overstepping that. They're trying to go around safety, and then of course, if something were to happen, if it's a refractory guy that gets hurt or something, it's their problem. That company's problem. It's a mess. But what is the best way for new clients to get a hold of y'all and take advantage of y'all services?
I don't know if you were able to see our business card there. We've got a website as well, www.xfrading.co.za. My telephone number is South African code 082-799-4798. Two, three important things about the company that I think should be mentioned is that we are completely independent, right? We have no affiliation with any installations company or a manufacturing concern. We're completely impartial. We don't have an uncle or aunt that works for installations company or a manufacturing concern. The second thing is, so we're completely impartial. The second thing is that it's important to note that although we subcontract a lot of our work, we do have our own clients as well, but we are not labor brokers. We're not an inspection agency. We don't recruit people, put them on site and forget about them and then have to be phoned up and say, hey, we got to get back home. The job's done. the only time when I'm not personally on a site is because of we've got overlapping work and I've got to do other stuff. That's the only time. Otherwise, I'm still very much involved. I'm actively involved. So our company is too small not to be involved. So we climb the cat ladders. We work on the ground. So yeah, we are not labor brokers. We are not an inspection agency. We genuine refractory inspectors and consultants.
That's the way it has to be, because that's the way that we are too, completely independent, third party inspection and testing. You have to be that way, because if not, then the work gets compromised. So if someone's got bad material and they're like, well, we just need you to just look past it, and then everything gets compromised, and your company takes a hit, because everybody else that's wanting you to fudge this or that, they're gonna walk away from it, but you're gonna be left holding the bag. So
if we got too much work and you feel overcommitted, we refuse work, because we do not want to overcommit and skimp on things. We're not gonna skimp on things.
Okay. Well, if you have any closing comments.
No, not at the moment. But as I said, thank you for your time. Thank you for this podcast. You're doing a good job. We appreciate that. We learn from each other. Like I said earlier, nobody knows everything. There's always something to learn. And yeah, all the best.
Yeah, that's exactly why. That's why I'm doing this, so that I can learn what I don't know and help people learn what they don't know. Over here we have to pass this the API. I don't know if y'all deal with that over where you're at, but we have to pass that. And even though they're field hands, they still have to learn all the lab testing and all that, and which they don't do. They don't have anything to do with it. But it's still in the test. So I try to help everybody that wants to take that test that doesn't know anything about refractory testing. I try to bring them in the lab and show them what is a spherical bearing block, or what is this chart saying, and try to help them explain it, because I learn hands-on. I don't learn by reading a book. I have to be out of the field and I have to put my hands on it, or there's no way for me to learn. Yeah. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, is try to help everybody learn the things they don't know, so to help them later on in life, so they can climb the ladder and not just be a laborer all their life. They can move up, be a foreman, move up, be a project manager.
And Craig, it's so important, because look, we've been fortunate enough to work internationally, and it's not like I'm saying a South African thing. That's an international problem, that the skills are scarce. We have to show people. We have to work with each other and teach each other ways and means to do things. And once again, I'm not saying we know everything, but somewhere along the line, we know someone that would know, and maybe we can also learn from others.
Yeah, definitely. And so I do appreciate you joining. I do appreciate you reaching out and wanting to be a part of the podcast. Like I said, it's finally starting to spread and starting to take off a little bit. I think, it's been almost 2 years since I started it, and it's just been creeping along slowly. Nobody really wants to be in front of a camera and then be posted on the internet somewhere. So it's hard to find people that want to do that, because it's different for people that've never done it before. When I first started,
it can be overwhelming. Yeah, it can be a bit overwhelming.
Yeah, when I started, I couldn't even listen to the sound of my recorded voice. I hated it. That's the only thing that was stopping me, holding me back. But once I forced myself to do it a few times, now I'm fine with it. But again, I do appreciate you joining me today. Thank you very much.
Anytime, guys. Whoever needs assistance, in and out. We don't just charge. We sometimes give freebies too. So please feel free to contact us.
Phil, that's great, man. I do appreciate that.
Cool.
Thank you, man.
Enjoy your weekend.
Yes, thank you. You too.